Professor Michael Chiang in the house. What do you think about our little dolls? Hoist Gracie, Hicks and Gracie, Sakuraba. Did you used to watch the Pride Championships?
Yep. Long time ago. Yeah, that was when it was brand new, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, not they kind of they back in with Hickson, right? Back in the early
Yeah, that was
Vale Japan days.
yeah, those were the times where me and my friends would just figure out a way to get that stuff.
The fights.
The fights.
The ability to watch the fights, yeah.
Yeah.
So Professor Michael Chiang, it's an honor to finally get you on the podcast. It's been trying for a while. Finally got you. You used to teach early morning class for years, right? In Hollywood.
Yep.
We had the gym in Hollywood. And many black belts came out of that class.
Yeah, a lot of black belts before I became a black belt. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So I was so happy to see you back on the mat because of the contribution you've made to many others. And it's awesome to sit down with you finally.
Blessed and honored to be here. Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So how does it feel to be involved with jiu-jitsu after all these years and finally get your black belt?
Well, for me, it's been a long journey, and the peak was getting the black belt, and starting in 2011, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, it's such a big gap between then and now.
Mm-hmm.
And so to answer your specific question, like, there is this level of fulfillment, but there's also a level of like, okay, now I get to like grow into it. And there's a lot of different, what I call challenges in a say. It's like, okay.
Maybe responsibilities too.
I would say responsibilities. That was probably a better word. Responsibilities of now giving back to the community because I have my black belt. So yeah, it's amazing.
It's cool to hear you say that, but I know you were already kind of just, it's your nature to kind of help others and give back and help others with whatever you learned, even before you were a black belt,
Yeah. It's always been my nature. I think growing up, it's always been in the space of contribution. My parents always was like, you have to give back to the neighborhood, and I just found myself a teacher, always a teacher.
Mm.
And if it wasn't jiu-jitsu, it was always something else, but jiu-jitsu was one of those things where I just fell in love with. And I was like, oh, well, I can make a difference with other people. Oh, here's a white belt that just started. Why not, become, a mentor, somebody that's going to support them,
That's
part
it.
of the community. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Make the world a little bit better, right?
Yep.
Are you from LA originally?
I was born in Taiwan, actually.
Taiwan. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, I was born in Taiwan.
And you moved here?
So, funny story.
Yeah, tell me your background.
Funny story is so I was born in Taiwan, and my parents were immigrants. So the story, and this is the story coming from a space of responsibility. The story was that when I was born, my parents actually got their visa in Taiwan to come to the United States.
Oh wow!
And what happened was the U.S. government basically said you could only bring one child. I have an older brother.
What?
Yeah. So they said, hey, United States is going to be a space for us to kind of grow our family, and this is the land of opportunity. So I ended up being raised by my aunts and uncles till the age of like 2 to 3 years old. I don't even remember.
What?
Yeah. And so for the 2 to 3 years, this is what my mom told me. My mom told me that like she would just write to the government. I think Alan Cranston was the governor, and until like year 2 or 3,
the governor of California.
The governor of California. Yeah. He allowed me to come. So like I technically was.
So you were born, and then they like left you soon after.
Yes.
In Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They left me soon after. I can only imagine like what was going on with my parents, because I think that was just a really difficult decision for them. I know. And there was like this huge lapse of memory of like what what I was going through.
What kind of visa was it for them to?
I think they got they must have got their green card.
Oh, they got the green card.
Yeah,
Okay.
they got the green card.
Okay.
And then after and to be honest, I don't know.
Who knows, right?
Yeah, I don't know
The
how
details.
or what the details were, but I just knew that when that happened, like, and I just remember the time when I came out of the airplane, 2 to 3 years later, and I
Yeah.
had this big old gash on the back on my head. I think I just may have ran into something as a kid, and then they saw me, and then the other thing was like the other important key thing was like I think Elizabeth Taylor was like on the plane, and that was like a big deal.
You remember that?
That's the only thing I remembered, and then that from that point on, we lived with my aunt in Irvine until my parents were folks that just kind of got by at the time. That's immigrant storyline, and then they moved to Orange, and then to Hacienda Heights. So, I was.
That's how you ended up in up here.
Yep, that's how I ended up here, Hacienda Heights, until I was actually 27. I kind of was live at home until I actually had to not live at home anymore because my parents were retired and moved to China. So
They moved back.
they moved to China.
They moved to China, mainland China.
For like they retired. They retired like in 2000. That was when I was 27. So it was like 2004, 2005. Here's a really interesting story. So I never had to do anything. So I was a slacker up till like 26 or 27. So even all the jobs I've had, I was like, well, I could always go home and stay at home and live at home, right? So I had this whole like umbrella of like living in my parents' house, and my parents were pretty cool about it. And then and then one time they were like, hey, we're gonna go and retire to China, and I have like super attachment. So like I have this whole like abandonment thing going on because when I was like 2 to 3 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, they're leaving me again. So I went through this whole like spiral space, and then I was like, okay, fine, I'll figure it out. So I got my own place. Didn't know how to manage money. Probably put myself a little bit in debt. Then I got a job in 2005 working at a staffing agency in West LA. So it was like the staffing agency was in Westwood. I lived in Pomona at the time.
Wow.
And so I drove every single day to Westwood, which was like a 2.5 hour one-way drive. So I would get up at like 5:30, get to work by 7:30, and then stay at work till 9 p.m. and then get home like around 10 to 11. So I did that for like 5 or 6 months until like I was like, I can't do this anymore. So then I broke my lease, went into debt, and then I found a place I couldn't afford on the west side just so I could be closer to work. And I think what happened was I just knew that job was a job that I was gonna create a lot of freedom for myself. It was like fulfilling because I was like, this is a position that I know I'm going to be good at. I'm not good at it now, but this is.
You saw the potential. Yeah.
I saw the potential, so I took a risk, and I went for it. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a funny legacy story of like how I grew up, like just not knowing my childhood from like 0 to 3 years old.
That's a trip. Well,
Yeah.
I did not know that. Where you were from Taiwan, but family, but I didn't know that story.
Yeah. And I tell it from a space of like, hey, yes, it was things that come up for me now. Like I've worked through a lot of that processing, but I could always imagine what my parents went through, and I could also imagine like the decision that they had to make to choose a child to go, and then seeing the vision that they had about United States being the land of opportunity, and this is where they're going to spend their career, this is how they're going to raise the family, and respecting kind of that choice, because like myself and my older brother, like we came out all right.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't really talked to my brother about how he felt not having his little brother around, but that's a totally different story on its own. Yeah.
At least he They took him, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they took it. But it's really amazing because my brother and I have this whole different perception.
What's the age difference?
Five
Oh,
years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah, so he was like 5, 6 years old, and I was, born.
Still a baby, yeah.
Yeah, I was still born, but we have like totally this different perception of our parents.
What does he feel?
So I come from that space of that responsibility of like, we were latchkey kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we were the kids that like go out and played with all the other kids, and we got in fights, we played in the dirt, we were messy, we were dirty, and then we came back home, and my parents came home from for dinner, cooked us, and we always had a family meal and stuff. So I came from that place of like, they're making a living and they're not around, whereas he's just like, well, they're not around, so he has a different perception. So I came from that responsibility. He came from like, now I get to be around for his kids. So his standpoint was more like, well, since I was raised a latchkey kid, this is his point of view, then I get to kind of be very, very present to my kids. So
compensating. Well,
yeah.
The Gen X, right? It's
Yeah.
like all those memes and stuff, right? Like
Yeah. And
like that, it turned out okay. Like
it turned out okay.
You came home when the lights were, the lights went on, the outside, the street lights went on, right? Way after, right?
Yeah, and
nobody knew where you were.
And the cool thing about it is, even from our different perspectives, like we both turned out like okay. I mean, it was amazing. I think
who knows what's good and what's bad, right?
Yeah.
And just this whole, because like me and my wife, with you wanna protect, you wanna do everything, but actually that's not what they need. They need struggle. They need to figure it out on their own, right?
Yeah.
Problem solve on their own. That's how you get strong. That's how you grow up.
And because he's 5 years older than me, I mean, he acted as the mentor that I needed in my life, and it was really cool because all the mistakes he made during high school and in college, like he would take me everywhere. But I also watched like some of the things that he's gone through with his relationships and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's something I'm not gonna totally do. I saw the struggle there. So and then ultimately, when I got my job, he would be the person that would give me the coaching and the professional tips of like how to do well at a corporate setting at a 1,000 person company. And these are the word tracks. This is the way that you have to represent yourself and stuff like that. So I've learned a lot just watching and experiencing. So I was very fortunate to have such a positive mentor in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big brother.
Yeah.
He's a good big
yeah.
brother.
Like I
watched out for you. Like taught you in a lot of different ways, right?
took care of me.
Yeah.
Even when I probably didn't deserve it, but like totally took care of me.
Have you been back to Taiwan?
Not in a while. The last time I did was like 98.
Man, I keep seeing these like those YouTube videos of what would happen if China would invade Taiwan, and just all this stuff, and it's just like crazy. Like what? Like just the bunkers and all the things that they have set up on the island.
Yeah. So when I went in 98, none of that was there. It was a little wide open. I just think the difference between so when I walked in the airport, so I've been to China and Taiwan. So when you walk in an airport, the first thing that you see is on the top, it'll say the Republic of China. And then when I went into the airport in China, say the People's Republic of China.
Right.
So then
It's like the
yeah. It's
Republic of China and the People's
Republic
of China.
That's it. Yeah. I think so.
And they speak. What language do they speak in Taiwan? The same.
Well, they have
Cantonese.
It's mostly Mandarin.
Mandarin.
Right,
Okay,
they speak. Well, my parents spoke Mandarin, and they also have a dialect just for the Taiwanese people, like the indigenous people that were
Gotcha,
there
gotcha.
before the Chinese came. And so my parents would speak that language if they wanted to talk shit about me and my brother, because that's something that we couldn't even understand at all. That was actually kind of like, it was like that dialect that has absolutely
So Mandarin's the main language, right, in China. But in the South, in like Hong Kong and what other areas do they speak Cantonese?
mostly in the South. So my mom,
Because even in Shanghai, they speak Mandarin, right?
well, there's thousands of Chinese dialects. There's thousands of
Okay.
different indigenous dialects in China, and like Shanghai's, there's even a Shanghainese, but the national dialect of China is Mandarin. And my parents, when they went to Taiwan, they were babies, so it was like in the 40s during the war. So they were refugees that set up shop over there. And my mom's family was from the South China, so they were Cantonese, and my dad was from the North, so he was Mandarin. So it was interesting.
Man, Taiwan's taken over with all the microchips, the NVIDIA, and
Yeah, the Taiwan semiconducting. Yeah, they
best in the world.
yeah, and that's why it would be difficult for all that controversy, like all that like what if type of
World
things.
War III.
Yeah, it's because there's so much vested interest into Taiwan that it will be difficult for that to happen. And the government like kind of teeter-totters sometimes. They'll be like, okay, well, we're for the free trade there in China, now we're for Taiwan. It's like back and forth, back and forth. But I used to remember when I went in '98, it was like the main place. It was looked at as more of an economic powerhouse than China at the moment.
Taiwan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only seen. I was supposed to go right before the pandemic. I was supposed to go with Robert Miller. We're gonna do a TAC fit certification there,
Yeah.
and with Robert Miller, with Nestor, and then the pandemic happened, and so everything got shut down. I actually still have the credits for the plane to go there.
You should go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when
When
hopefully, I'd like to go actually, because Gary, there's the TAC fit director there, and
Yeah.
they're kicking butt. And he's like leading the certifications and stuff, helping out all over like Asia, Southeast Asia, for sure. So yeah, I'd love to go out there. I will go out there one day.
I mean, Taiwan is just a beautiful
And it looks
country,
beautiful.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
tropical. It's like it seems like these guys they're working their butts off. They're smart. They're go getters.
I mean, it's just don't go during summertime. It's because it's super humid.
Super humid.
Yeah. And then of course the typhoons are just kind of ridiculous.
Typhoons, huh?
Yeah, it's like in Asia
Hurricanes.
they're in Asia they're called typhoons, and here they're called hurricanes. So it's like
Right.
the same type. It's just different weather climates and stuff. But it's like humid where you walk out of the airport, and I'm sure you experienced that. And then the first thing happens to your clothes is just like absorbs into your body. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
you're like, what the? And sometimes like, let me just go back into the airport with the air conditioning and everything on top of that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I look forward to visiting one day, just because there's so much going on there.
Mhm.
That's crazy, huh? Back before, I mean, Shanghai was always like because it's they had the trade with the British owned it, right? Shanghai, Hong Kong. But who owned like Shanghai is very international with
Yes.
the expats.
Yeah, Shanghai is like
what was the story with Shanghai?
it's like it was like it was like the equivalent to like New York City of China. That's where
They have the Bunt, that area with.
yeah. I mean,
what
I
was
think
this-
it was like
I forgot.
Beijing is like the capital.
Right.
Shanghai was like the cosmopolitan area where there was
It's like the New York City.
yes, it's New York City. Yeah, so there's but to be honest, like when I went to China, the density of a lot of the major cities, like it was like 2004, 2005. I went to China and we stayed at Guangzhou, which is like their fifth or sixth largest city.
Guangzhou. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's south. It's a few miles north of Hong Kong. It was maybe 100 miles north of Hong Kong, and you go in the city, and from from where your eyes look at. So if you look at from the far, like if you could kind of look to your left and see, the skyline, like it's all buildings. And then you look to the right and you see the skyline, it's all buildings. That's how dense. And that's like
what
the
city was
fifth or
that?
sixth. That was Guangzhou.
Guangzhou.
And that was like the fifth or sixth like most populous city. And they had like 20 million already people living
crazy.
there. And that's before the Industrial Revolution, where they ended up getting all these engineering plants. And so like another city that was right before Hong Kong, on the way to Hong Kong from Guangzhou, was a city called Shenzhen, which ended up becoming the manufacturing area for all of China. So a lot of the stuff that was built, or at least like all the how in Chinese they have all those equipment and everything else. Like
Correct.
it was all built in Shenzhen. So this whole city just kind of came out of nowhere. In like less than 10 years, it has like a populace of like 10 to 20 million already too. It's like huge.
Wow, that's crazy, man. We went to, my grandfather took us on this before, when he was getting older. He's like, I want to, I want to give you guys memories together, right? And so we did a tour of China. We went to, Beijing and Great Wall of China and all the Forbidden City, all that stuff. And then we went to Shanghai and we went to Xi'an, the Forbidden Warriors, or not Forbidden, the Terracotta Warriors, right?
Yeah, those things are awesome, yeah.
Yeah. And Shanghai. And so in Shanghai, you could see, as far as you could see like cranes and them building things. This is back in 2003.
Okay.
2000, end of 2002. So like December 2002. We went in the winter time because I was competing and fighting, and my mom got my grandfather to make it work with my schedule. I had a couple months after that. I had like a big old King of the Cage fight. Anyway, it was like crazy. I never forgot how many cranes and how much construction was gonna happen. And then fast forward, I went to China in 2010, I believe, or 2011.
Okay.
And sure enough, Shanghai was like that area across the street from the Bund it was like full and skyscrapers as far as I could see.
It's dense. I could only imagine how many people are there. Yeah,
and
it's
you're
this
just
in
like,
10 years.
man, what's going on here? Like they were getting ready to take over, or, you just like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was traveling through it, and I saw like a huge difference between like the upper class and then the middle class. And, like not even middle class, but it was just like you went in the city and you see the urban living, and then a mile out of the city, people are still working in the rice paddies.
Right,
and, it's like the farmers and everything.
Like in
else
Xi'an, we went to Xi'an when the Terracotta Warriors, like it was like it was so different, the types of people.
Yeah, it's like night and day, and I was just like, whoa. And then of course, like we would stay at like family friends' houses and stuff, and then they would have like the chickens, and they're like, hey, you want to have some dinner? We're like, yeah, sure. And like, and then they grab the chicken on the back, and take care of the chicken.
Yeah. I was just saying. I was just thinking when I went back, like over 10 years after that, just how much, like I was saying, how many buildings were up, and then just the cultural difference from like China and maybe other parts of it, like Japan, for example. Like one of my students, he moved there. He brought me out there. There was a world trade. Not World Trade, the World Fair. It's the World Fair where they have all the countries.
Yeah, yeah.
So we went there and we walked all around, yeah, man, it was just so impressive, But then I started to learn about just also the cultural differences. Like you're in a board meeting or a boardroom or very proper things, and people like have inappropriate, like they burp or they fart and.
Yeah, they.
I don't know if it's a Chinese thing or what, but
they're.
It's just different, from
different.
Western.
Yeah, it's different. I think.
But it's different from like Korean, from what I know, and Japanese, and I don't know the culture.
It's like table manners.
Table manners,
It's
yeah.
like table manners. So you'll have dinner, and then people have table manners. So there was always a point where we would have dinner with friends and family members, and they were from mainland China, and there was absolutely no table manners. And I think a lot
No
of it,
table manners,
there's
yeah.
no table manners whatsoever because there was never something that was learned. It wasn't something that like a parent said, hey, you know, maybe there should be a little bit more respect, etc. So what happened was the middle class extremely got wealthy. So the middle class got developed like that. In like less than 10 years, the middle class got
In China, right?
in China. And within that, you know, they still had the old school
Village,
tradition and stuff like that of like having their feet on the table or you know, they're just eat as quickly as possible and not savor the meal, but like just eat as possible.
In Taiwan, like because of like the Western and that influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things, and it's also the money and stuff and the investment, right, in the country and the island. It's I would assume the people that I've met, everybody if that live there too, that I've met, are, you know, it's not like that.
They were modernized in a way where it was very similar into my experience. If you were, and here's really a trip. There would be, I would assume that it would be something similar to like a Japan or Korea because of the modernization and
Correct.
the culture.
Yeah. It seems.
But then when I was in China, I went to Hong Kong on that same trip. And Hong Kong was a total different world. And this is before
Hong Kong was a different world from Taiwan.
From China.
From China, yeah.
It was like the modernization.
Yeah, like my Edith didn't want to go with me to China when I was going to Shanghai. Like I was, you know, one of my students, he invited me to go, stay in his house. She's like, I don't want to go to China. But Hong Kong, she would have gone. You know?
Yeah, Hong Kong is like a total different. It was almost to a point where it's night and day, even from the space of getting on the internet. So when I was in China, I was getting on the internet. Everything was censored. When I went to Hong Kong, everything was just wide open. It was super dense too, but there was at least the modernization. And I think in that time of frame, the modernization hasn't hit yet China. So I'm pretty sure that it's pretty much modernized.
What about having the one child rule? When did that start in China?
Geez, I'm not a historian, so I can't.
But
really
more or
tell.
less, like it's been a while. It was 70s, 60s, something like that. 70s.
Yeah.
So somewhere in there.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of other things that happened because of that one child rule, especially if the one child was a specific gender.
Oh, right.
So
I've heard about that.
Yeah. So there's.
But what about now with all the dwindling population and?
Oh, I think they're promoting it. I mean, not one child, but it's gone. It's like
it's gone now.
Yeah, they're promoting to
have babies again.
To have more kids, just because in Asia, traditionally in Japan and Korea, there's a dwindling population, so the birth rate is not at part of sustaining to.
Yeah, they're trying to import like people to have kids in Japan. I don't know if that's real.
And pay.
Kevin, they're calling for him to go out there.
I'll save the world.
He'll save the world.
Yeah.
Save the fucking world. I'll go to Japan, Korea, and China. I don't give a fuck.
Didn't you just come back from there?
Yeah, I'm going again.
Oh, you must have.
He's gone back.
You must have had a good time.
My layover was in Taiwan. It was amazing.
Well, I hope to go to visit Taiwan one day. I will. Shout out to Coach Gary. He's kicking butt, and the team, the squad there. It's been awesome to see. You can see the quality of the people. You know.
Yeah, they're great. And I actually also owe it to my wife because that was one of our promises when we got married. It's like we're gonna go visit Taiwan, and we just never got to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she Taiwanese as well?
No, she's Vietnamese.
Vietnamese. Okay.
Yeah, she's Vietnamese. Yeah, so it was one of those things. And every single time we talk about Taiwan, it's like, when are we gonna go? I go, well, I guess we'll have to create space to go. Yeah, but it's been a great journey. And it's one of those things where like it's going to be another bucket list to go back, just because I haven't gone back with the wife. We went to Vietnam. That was cool. Now I was going back to like Taiwan to visit my legacy. We went to visit her family and friends and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. So like we have a common thing that we did, right? My friend Scotty from On the Mat, this Cellular Performance Institute, the stem cells and all that. They have the hospital, the cancer hospital, CHIPSA, right, in Tijuana, and he was telling me about this. He was helping some people to do like this emotional intelligence course, and somebody called him when I was in the car with him because he was taking me down to try out this new stem cell treatment, and one thing led to another, and I ended up going. That was just one weekend.
It was like was it 20? When did you go?
What's that?
When did you go?
It was like right after it was like the first year of the pandemic or the second year of the pandemic because we had to wear masks and stuff.
2020, 2021.
And so I thought it was like a weekend. I was like, oh, that seems really cool, like you get out of your comfort zone, you whatever, do good things, personal growth, right? I'm always trying to be better, be a better person. And it's like one weekend, and then it's like, oh, there's a second weekend. Okay, I gotta rearrange my schedule. Okay, second weekend in 2 weeks. Okay, all right. And then the second weekend, there's this leadership thing. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And if you make it through, there's this third weekend, right? And then I was like, what the heck?
That's a lot of commitment right there.
Well, I made the time because you get connected with other people, and I was learning a lot too, for sure, and it was really good for me. But and I got out of learn things about myself, right, that I did, and so I kept going, for sure, and I making things harder on myself that I don't need to make hard, just do it. Don't say anything negative or, oh, why are you doing this, why are you doing that, or complain, right? And it was very powerful, yeah. And I went all the way through to the end, and helped a lot of people do the same, and it really taught me a lot about it. And then later on, right, we talked about your experience with that, and how you've
coincidence.
And we meet some of the guys who laugh because you've been trying to, you got a bunch of guys from here, and I got some as well, some people to go to do the course. Do you want to say some words on how you got into it? And
well, it was really interesting. So growing up in a very traditional Asian family, they're like, what's emotional intelligence? What's emotions in general? Like how often did I hear I love you or any of that growing up in the house? It's like, do work, do good, bring home the money, and then put food on the table, and then everybody's happy. So in 2011, I went to another training, and I had huge breakthroughs, and that was great. That was fantastic. And then in five years later, 2015, the wife said, okay, we have to go to this other place. It's called, mastery training. So I was like, no, I don't want to go. Especially in June, because it was my birthday month. I was trying to avoid, because what I realized was all my walls went up, because now I got emotional intelligence 2011, and I knew what I didn't want to know, and I knew what I wanted to know, and I'm like, I'm just going to resist it big time. But finally, I gave my word, because she gave me the takeaway. She was like, give me your credit card, I'll go. I'll go without you. I'm like, you got me. So I went, and yes, it was, level 1 was this whole five-day event, which I found out about my walls, what was holding me back, and made me very aware of myself. And I was like, okay, great. I'm gonna go to what's next, which is the level 2, which is the second piece. And I thought it was gonna be easy. I thought it was gonna be one of the easiest experiences in my life, because I've done it somewhere else, and holy crap, it was the biggest breakthrough of my life. And ultimately, from that point on, I went all the way, and I committed myself to this leadership training to find out and I tell this story often, to find out that my wife, and I don't know if you knew this, but like my wife was this close to filing divorce paperwork, because I had this belief system that I was making a lot of money, and because I was bringing home the money, I thought that she was going to be happy. You know, put a house over her head, put food on the car, could go travel, do whatever we wanted to, but like that should be the happiness. But in reality, it was just a deeper cut.
You're disconnected, right? You're speaking of it, more awareness, right?
Super disconnected.
Not aware of anything that's going on with the person closest to you, right? It's supposed to be closest to you.
I was disconnected. In that space, I actually treated her that like she wasn't my equal, because I was bringing the income. I was making more money than her. So I had that conceitedness, that judgmental, that was always the feedback that was given to me. And what happened is when I started continuing on that journey of leadership, she was like, I'm gonna put it on hold, I'm gonna see what happens to him. And through that whole journey, I started like evolving, seeing myself, getting the feedback, receiving the feedback, and finally finishing in a way where she saw noticeably changed. And then so she went on the journey also. Like she actually didn't do it yet, but she went on a journey right after, and then she finished. And that's pretty much our hobby. Like we give back to the community. Now, we always tell that story is because what I've learned in that whole journey is that like there's more to just tangible items. There's more to just money. There's more than just to that. There's a mutual contribution. What I've also learned is that we use this word enrollment in a way where it's like we're always enrolling somebody to do something or to be someone. And in our relationship together, there's never a time where we're not enrolling. Like to have a healthy relationship with my wife is to be enrolling like every single day, every single moment. And the time that we decide that we're not enrolling.
How would you say enrolling in another, what's another word? What's a good synonym?
Well, so from a business perspective, it's sales. I always call it sales. And in a space of relationship, I always call it being authentically present to the person, like giving them when you're actually speaking to them, being present and being in contribution to their life. So like we always look at love languages in a way. So, you know, like knowing what her wants, needs, and contributions are. And so we're working together constantly. So we're always working on the relationship. So Roman is for us is like the consistent working on the relationship and enrolling into the relationship. So another perspective I look at is that she is one, I am one, and then the relationship is one. So it's like the whole 1 + 1 = 3. It's kind of a weird formula, but what was missing is that the relationship is its own entity, and we're consistently investing into the relationship.
So you're your own person. She's her own person,
Yes.
but then you guys have a joint venture business, right? That's you guys' relationship together.
Yes, and we're constantly
Taking it from a business or whatever.
So our relationship, it's its own entity. And so we're consistently investing into the relationship, but there's also credits and debits, right? There's going to be times where we take unintentionally and then we give back.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's to her, sometimes it's just to what's an investment to the relationship. So we started looking at it, the relationship as an investment, and so we both were enrolling into the relationship in collaboration. So that's been extremely valuable. And
I think it's just for me with some listening, right? Like it's good, right, to have that perspective. Like, hey, I need to take care of myself, right? Like I'm my own like entity, and if you're not good, then the relationship isn't gonna be good, right? But
Yep.
also, yeah, just separating it, right? Because you can't just be, you're just the relationship, right? If you're in a relationship.
I think the relationship is absolutely something that is continuously in growth and investment. So it's like once we stop investing into that relationship, that's when things happen. That's when people break up or have divorces. Is that both parties stopped investing in a relationship, or just one party is investing into the relationship, which actually doesn't work either.
Right.
So both have to be in mutual relationship, and I think that's with everybody.
Yeah, he's talking to the microphone.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I'll move it.
There you go. The other thing the leadership course has created for me was my business. Like I would have never started my business without going through leadership and transformation, and the sole purpose of like being in a business professional business where I didn't think I was good enough to be a leader. I didn't think I looked like everybody else that was a leader. And going through the training, I came to realize is that like I am good enough. I am worthy enough to get there. And with the right coaching, so my mentor ended up becoming the founder of Mastery Training. She passed away from ALS.
It's rough.
Yeah, I know. And what happened is she would always say, I believe in you. I believe in you. Like, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then finally got to a point where I took on a team to facilitate and to captain. And in that whole 4 or 5 month journey, I created like abundance and huge results for that team, which then gave me the hope and the
confidence
to be like, if I could do that, then I could do anything. And then she stood beside me and be like, yeah, by when are you going to do it? And then from that point on, it's like, okay, when I started my company, she goes, well, by when are you going to make your first deal? By when are you going to book your first $100,000? By when are you going to book your first 1 million? So it's like now the accountability from somebody that I well respected, that believed in me, I think that was like a cornerstone of the success and even the courage of starting my own, because I knew that I could totally do it because she believed in me. So that was huge to kind of surround myself with like-minded people and people that just was coming from a space of abundance. Abundance.
Nice, man.
Yeah,
that's good. That's awesome. I love that. I love that about the relationship and then work, right, too, and the whole thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't go into these trainings saying, hey, I'm gonna work on my relationships, or I'm not emotionally intelligent, or I'm distant, or I'm disconnected, or like I'm controlling. Like that's not why you do these trainings. You go into the trainings with a lot of people go into trainings with the intention of like, I want to find my person, or I want to start a new business, or network to start a new business, or something like that. Yeah. And then they go into or people go into training because they see somebody that that's well respected, have done the work, and they go like, if that person liked it so much, maybe I'll do it. And then eventually,
like my friend was doing it. I was like, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, why not?
Give it a shot. Helping his friend.
Give it a shot. See what happens. And then from that point on, just trusting the process and see where it takes you.
Yeah. For me, like, my friend was, was interesting because I'm always trying to evolve and learn and improve. But one of the things that kind of was pulling me down was I was resenting because it took my time away from being on the mat and giving my all to my students here, because I get to do that in my community. I say my community here, so kind of I would resent that, But I know like the big picture, I learned a lot and made me like a better person. And at the same time, right, to have some humility, like I'm better than these other people or whatever. Like I know all this, I already know this, like part of that's like, okay, yeah, I know it, but it doesn't matter, just.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's always
because they were like strangers, I didn't really know them. Like, why am I putting my time into you when I can be putting my time into like these other my guys, my family, you know, my team. So that was like the one of the things that kept coming up, you know. But I'm very grateful I did it. It really made me a better person. It really made me more efficient. Made me better my relationship, better father. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the whole experience, and it's great work that they do. And I was really happy to hear you being a part and hearing your side too of how it's helped you.
Yeah,
it's very powerful, you know.
It's one of those moments where I didn't really get to see myself until I actually saw myself through the experience of others' feedback of me. And I could have been in my box, in my prison of living the life I lived, but then knowing that there were consequences if I continued, and one of them being that I would not be married or be divorced, or there was that part of it. And that would have devastated me. You know, that would have totally devastated me.
Yeah, just all the experiential learning, right? Like actually acting it out, right? And
Acting it out,
and that opens up your eyes, or the feelings, and you know everything, right?
Culturally, yes. For me, everything was closed off.
To have that space, be in a space like that where you actually have to do it because you don't want to do it, right?
Totally don't.
It's
want to
unnatural.
Do it.
Like I don't want to be here.
I was like sitting in a room and you're just like judging everybody. You're like sizing everybody up. It's like, oh, that's that person's problem, not my problem. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
And then eventually be like, oh, that's our problem now. That's something that we could figure out together, because if I see it in them, it's probably likely in me. And what an opportunity to overcome that and support it.
Yeah, it's been a trip, man. It's crazy because you learn all these things about like how people, you know, somebody that says something about somebody else, they actually feel that about themselves, right?
Oh yeah,
and all these like little things, like, oh yeah,
it's like the whole like, oh, you spot it,
it's
you
like
got
the mirror,
it.
yeah, you spot it, you got it, like this mirror, right? It's
yeah.
like because they're mad at them because they have that same thing, right? They do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's like we reject others that are like us. It's like that's that. I see all these conversations happen with like my friends and stuff, and they're like, well, I'm not in a great relationship with this person. I'm like, well, you guys are the same person. You just probably hate seeing yourself.
Like with your parents, right? You hate your parent or whatever, and
like, different perspective
because they're the same like as you, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's all projection in my point.
Like, because you're like the same person.
Yeah, so. we're the same person. And the cool thing about the work is that we don't make it wrong or right. Yeah. It's just like it is what it is. It is what it is. We don't make it wrong or right. It is what it is, and it's the worst thing to do. What I've learned is not to push it down and avoid it, and ignore it. It's just like accept it. That's how we are.
Yeah.
And then just kind of face it and take responsibility and move on, and then just know that if it comes up again, it comes up again. I'm not gonna avoid it and say like, oh, okay, well, that's a different person.
Let's go back. We haven't really touched on jiu-jitsu much, but let's talk about jiu-jitsu. Tell me, what has jiu-jitsu done for you in your life?
Shit. Okay, so let's go back to 2011 when I first started, and it was the most humbling experience of my life. What it created was courage, confidence. What it created was the vulnerability. What it created was resilience, overcoming adversity. What it created was brotherhood, sisterhood, team, community. What created was like a common goal, and then also knowing that there's never going to be a mastery of it. There's always There's no way you're going to know it all. There's no way.
It's a never-ending journey.
It's a never-ending journey, and it's also something what I would call therapeutic. It's like I said in a speech, like jiu-jitsu is a religion where you go to church every single day and you learn about yourself, and you can't focus on anybody else but the person in front of you when you're training. And so like there's no outside noise, there's no stress, there's none of that stuff, because if that happens, guess what happens? You get choked out or you have to tap or whatever. So you're just constantly present. So for me, it's like jiu-jitsu is the ultimate mindset of discipline. And you can look at tradition, you can look at all the other pieces, like the respect and tradition and the ranks and everything else on top of that. But like if you go into the deeper cut, what jiu-jitsu has done for me is the ability to actually like be calm and present and be the ultimate surrender to what's possible, surrender to the learning, surrender to the execution, surrender, just
process.
The process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a constant growth. I mean, and I hate to say it from that way. It's like, but like my YouTube feeds are all like jujitsu, just watching people like train and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that person's doing it. But then realizing that I'm a 48-year-old man that is not going to be on his neck all the time. That probably not the healthiest way to go. But I do believe that, I mean, jiu-jitsu has changed my life because of that. Yeah, because now tying into leadership, now tying into my work, now tying into my relationships. Like I always say that the 4 most important values in people's lives are work, relationships, their belief system, and their health. And if any of those 4 categories are below par, then your life is not working. And jiu-jitsu
does all of them, right?
Jiu-jitsu like check boxes all of them, because it's a place for community. It's a place for a belief system. It's a place for relationships and work, and it's a place where there's health. You know, there's specific health both mentally and physically that comes across positive.
Awesome. We're gonna start doing some little technique videos. So if we can get you doing some showing us some of your techniques. What's your favorite jiu-jitsu technique?
Oh, I love deep half and loop chokes.
Loop chokes and deep half.
Yep. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those traps. Also because it's quick, and my style is more focused in terms of
the loop choke is quick.
For me, it's just like like they don't know it's coming. Once you lock it down, it's like, okay, it's a quick submit. So that's what I love.
Do you remember your first submission when you started training jiu-jitsu?
Dude, I don't remember. I think it was maybe like 6 or 7 months. I think I tapped like 1,000 times before I submitted anybody, to be honest.
So I ask people sometimes because you remember like your first submission that you got sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it was almost to the point where it's when I first started in 2011 in Hollywood, it was like we had a group of guys and we would just like train all the time.
Yeah.
And it just got
everybody's really good, right? Everybody's like pretty even. So
everyone's even.
Doesn't mean anything, yeah.
And remember it's a brand new school.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anybody that was.
How
more
cool
tenured.
was that spot? Come on, we have a jiu-jitsu gym
on
like
the top.
Sunset Boulevard and Highland Boulevard, a block away from where they have the Oscars and everything else, across the street from Hollywood High School. Second story overlooking.
That's why I joined. I was driving past that and I looked to the left and I saw the academy and I'm like, okay, I gotta go. And so I called and they said come in the next day. So I came in the next day, and ever since that, like, that's it.
You never stopped.
I just never stopped. It was one of those things where it's like I can't wait to get my 3rd stripe so I could be in the advanced course.
Third stripe on your white belt, so you can start doing the advanced classes.
Yeah, I can start doing advanced classes because I'm like, we're done. When are we gonna stop drilling or do positional training for like I timed it like 45 minutes and then traditional like positional training for 15 minutes. I can't wait to just like free roll. That's
it. Coaches doing the fun months classes. That's it.
It was.
That's the flow.
It works. Is that something personal?
No, just we gotta not training. You gotta pull back. And also safety, right? But depending on who's in class, right? So
yeah, I think safety was always the most important part because Sometimes you get the
But
most.
it's funny you remember that, and you can't wait to be in the advanced class. You can't wait to do more. You can't wait to evolve, right?
It was
and earn that.
I just
right.
couldn't wait. It was just we had the fundamentals and then we had the advanced, and it was like back to back. So it was like, so we would sit in class and we'd do the fundamentals and then we'll watch the advanced.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
I can't
remember that.
And I was just like, there's watching, and I'm like, one day I can go in that class. I'm just not there yet. So like we just have to put more work and more work and more work into it, into the point where it's like until we got it. I do remember when I got promoted to blue belt. That was here.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Jacqueline was here.
Jacqueline, yeah.
Anthony.
We all got promoted to blue belt, and I was just like, wait, what? That was. I still have pictures of that and that moment, and it just was, that's when I knew I get to get to a black, and that was 2012 or something. I forget.
Subconsciously, you set that goal. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna become a black belt.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
yeah.
stop.
Yeah, now that was like when I was like 34 years old, and I think
Good for you, man. Good for you.
34. Yeah.
Way to
now.
stick to it.
Way to stick to it. Yeah.
Yeah. You said like you came in and did a class and you're like, and then you never stopped.
Never stopped.
And I was just gonna say like, and hopefully we never stop, right?
Oh.
We never stop moving. We never stop doing the things that are good for us, right?
Yeah.
And for those around us.
Especially getting close to my 50s, it's one of those things where not just that I don't stop, but I'm also very careful in a way, because I'm not that 34, 35-year-old.
You have to train differently. Yeah.
I got to train differently.
You have to adapt.
Different styles, and choose my training partners in a way where I know that I'm also thinking myself. And
of course.
Yeah, my family and everything else on top of that. So back in the day, it was like, I don't even back in the day, it was like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was like, oh, okay.
Different times. Yeah.
Different times. It's like I can get through it in a way where my body was healing in a way, so I could totally do that. But now it's like, maybe not a good idea at this moment.
Yeah.
I got to hit the office afterwards and everything else. So
awesome. Well, thank you for all of your contribution and continued contribution. I really appreciate you. I love you, man. I think you're an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And so happy we got to finally sit down and do a podcast.
This is amazing. This is actually the first podcast I've ever done. So I acknowledge you for your consistency and also your stand for the community. I mean, it's amazing what you've created in the last, how many years? 20 plus years?
25 years.
25 years. Yeah. I mean, you embody legacy, and then you've created legacy for the last 25 years. So congratulations also on your success, and thank you for inviting me to get this experience. It was extremely valuable.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
You're welcome.